welcome to the Cinema Condition. This is your host, Raul Alejandro Mendoza, or as I prefer you guys to call me, the Nerdy Chicano. And I am a filmmaker and creator of the Nerdcore Podcast Network. And we are here again to discuss another movie this week with you all. As always, on this show, I bring a guest every week and we discuss and really analyze a movie deeply to its core. And today is no different as we are looking at 2009's Summer Wars from Mamoru Hosoda with none other than Claire Rodriguez.
Hello.
Yes, Claire is here. She has been seen on different episodes of this feed, the other feed, because it's on its separate feed. So the Nerdcore Podcast Network has seen her before. She has been on the mini pods, actually, on our Patreon, where she just likes to shoot the shit with us. But, this is not her public debut, but it's her public debut on this new feed. But yeah, Claire has been on a lot of episodes. We did a silent voice review. And Claire will be making her monthly debut next month in March for Miyazaki month.
Yes.
So, Claire, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. I'm realizing that anyone who listens to this podcast probably thinks that I'm just some kind of weeb, which I am, but I still think it's funny.
Yeah. Claire is a big fan of anime, as is a lot of other people that have been on this show. She is a friend of mine, very close friend, who I've made this year, and I've had her come on the show countless times, and she's very natural when it comes to this microphone. So of course, I had to bring her on to talk this movie. Well, not talk this movie, because she's the one who chose this movie, right? So I had to bring her on the show. So welcome, Claire, to the Cinema Condition.
Yes.
And because it is the first 5 episodes, after this first five, I'm not going to keep explaining this, but Cinema Condition is different than a lot of shows on the Nerdcore Podcast Network. On Cinema Condition, we're not here to talk about the movie if we liked it or not. We're not here to review a movie. We're really here to analyze the themes of a movie and talk about what the movie means to us and if those themes were well represented in the film. So today we are going to be taking a look at Summer Wars, which was your choice. Claire, when do you remember your first time you watched Summer Wars?
I was still at the University of St. Thomas, so it was sometime before fall 2017, and we were me and a bunch of friends were hanging out in my dorm room, and at the time, my roommate brought a big screen TV and set it up on her dresser, so we hooked up someone's computer, and someone was like, "Oh, I heard about Summer Wars."
Yeah.
So we sat down and watched Summer Wars, and we were like, "This is the trippiest thing."
Yep. So rewatched it today with me. You rewatched it today with me, and I watched it for the first time. The film was directed by Mamoru Hosoda, and I'm going to introduce you guys to director Mamoru Hosoda here today. So, of course, he was born September 19, 1967, which makes him 51 years old. And he is, he started his career as an animator. He's done a lot of stuff with animation. Really didn't start his career making feature-length films. He was making 20-minute TV films and 20-minute videos for animation. He was inspired by the first film of Hayao Miyazaki, The Castle Cagliostro, which is what inspired him in his route to become an animator. He studied oil painting at the Kanazawa College of Art, and he would land a job at Toei Animation, even though he applied to work at Studio Ghibli, which he would end up going to work later, and then he would leave that job and then go to Toei again. But
Toei's a big one.
Even though he was rejected from Studio Ghibli, he received a letter of praise from none other than our favorite grumpy grandpa, Hayao Miyazaki. Yeah. He was supposed to direct Howl's Moving Castle, and he left the project in the summer of 2002 due to some conflict with the way that the film was supposed to be made. They really wanted him to make it in the style of Miyazaki, but Hosoda really wanted to make the movie he wanted to make. And what happened is in the summer of 2002, Studio Ghibli said he failed to make a picture that was acceptable to them, to have a vision for the film. So he was let go, And he had his feature debut in 2000 with Digimon the movie. He would animate a lot of Digimon. I remember Digimon the movie very well. His famous works include 2006's The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, which Claire has also
Ooh.
watched. Summer Wars in 2009, which is the one film we are discussing today. Wolf Children in 2012. And of course, his 2018 Academy Award nominated film for Best Animated Feature, Mirai. So that is the career of Mr. Mamoru Hosoda. And Claire, at the end of this episode today, you're gonna have the choice of recommending a film to the people, but also you get to call dibs on a movie for season 2. So
Ooh.
just think about it as we talk today.
Oh
It'll be at the
gosh.
end of the episode.
So many possibilities.
So many. Like I said, it's just one that you get to call dibs on at the end of the episode. I should have told you this before air, but this is the 5th episode. We're gonna go ahead and just get a little bit, we're trying to find our footing here. Footing. I was gonna say footing.
Just jump in. Just throw both feet in the water.
Yeah. So after this episode, things are gonna get a little bit different here, guys. There are gonna be nice little commercial breaks where you'll hear commercials for the other shows on the Nerdcore podcast feed, so you can go listen to them. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and get into this movie. Summer Wars is about our little teenage protagonist called what was his name? Fuck, I just finished watching this movie.
Oh my god, we just watched it. I forgot
yeah.
his name.
Well, let's go ahead and introduce first our female protagonist here. Our female protagonist is called Natsuki. And Natsuki, is in search for somebody to help her with a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And that part-time job is to get somebody to be her pretend fiance as she goes over for the summer to celebrate her grandma's 90th birthday. And yeah, people, he finds these two guys. One of them is really, really into Natsuki. It's his dream girl. Like, that's his girl. He really likes her.
Mm-hmm.
So, he says yes. And it was Kenji Koiso. Kenji says yes. And
but he didn't know that he was agreeing to be
yeah,
her
he
fiance.
didn't know. He was just like, hey, I get extra work,
he was
right?
like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah. And Kenji works as a code operator for Oz, which seems to be this very big thing that connects everything in Japan. It's a game, but it's also, connects with email, calls. Every little thing that is going on in Japan is operated by Oz.
It's basically the entire internet.
Yes,
it's basically Google.
Yeah.
It's like Google mixed with Disney.
Yeah. And as Natsuki takes Kenji and introduces him to the family, some things come up, and it is found out that Natsuki brought a fake person to be her fake fiance. But other than that, there's also the end of the world coming, as a hacker has stolen accounts, and one of them being military accounts for the United States, to launch a nuke into Japan. And that is Summer Wars. Claire, I really, really dug this movie.
It's a really good movie. I really like it.
There's a lot of things going on in this movie. It's really heartfelt. It's I saw this. I thought it was my mug thrown. I was like, what happened? Did I drop my mug?
Not
quite.
quite.
No, not quite. It's a very beautiful movie. It's very a lot of themes about family, internet dependency. Really, a lot of it too.
A lot of that.
Yeah, but there's also stuff like there's a lot of patriarchal stuff in here too. Really, like the woman's role of having to get married. Like the only reason she really brings this guy over is because her family keeps nagging her that get married, have kids.
Yeah, and then she brings him home, and like half the family's like, "Who's this guy?
Yeah,
and why is he here?"
Yeah, but there's also a lot of things about masculinity in this movie too, which is really, really interesting. And yeah, I want to get your thoughts first. I really dug the character of Kenji Natsuki too, but Kenji's this really like soft-spoken, very awkward teenage boy who is really getting to spend a good while with his girl of his dreams, being a fake fiance, and he's also tasked with being like the guy who needs to save the world, which is like pretty much the 100% the generic anime protagonist.
Very much so. I like the way that they handled that though, because here's this like super awkward like teenage guy who basically knows nothing about anything except computers. And that's like half the people that I know from high school. And
Mhm.
then like I don't know, I like the way that they handled him like having to save the world because they set it
Yeah,
up like he'd have to.
yeah.
And then he kind of like delegated tasks to
Hmm.
people, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So it shows that I think Hosada is also showing that this kid is a very family oriented, even though he, like he says, his family isn't always there. You know, they don't eat dinners together. You know,
Yeah.
everybody's doing their own thing. But he's had to really learn how to facilitate a family, and it really shows in the movie when he's like delegating like different tasks to everybody so that they can make sure that everything works out well and the world is saved. I really liked that about Kenji. I think that that's what makes him a pretty good. Natsuki, on the other hand, is really what's it called? I like Natsuki. I think she's basically the generic, what's it called, the female
She's just the
protagonist.
generic female in an anime. Like,
Yeah,
I did not care for Natsuki.
you didn't.
No.
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 I think her heart is in the right place. It's a little bit. It's just that it's hard to really understand because like she she gets jumped with like two things. The world's about to end and your fucking grandma died. Like, how can you really, like through that at the same time? It's pretty tough. She's bratty though, but she's
Yeah.
so it seems to be a thing in the family too, which is interesting. And I think now we get to talk about like these themes. There's a big theme about family in here. Families first. The
Mhm.
what's it called? They even tell you the whole history of the family, how they held down all these different what's it called, clans and these wars, and just this kind of always enforcing the idea that what we do is for the good of the family, and really kind of like very centralized inside the movie.
Yeah, I really like that about it because it is like in a lot of these anime and stuff where the protagonist is like, "Oh, you have to save the world." Like family gets forgotten in a lot of
Hmm.
them, and it like loses that like family orientedness. Or if you like, because one of the going off on the slight tangent,
Nah, go.
one of the anime that this movie reminds me of is Sword Art Online,
Mm,
which I don't think you've watched, have you? Okay, so
never.
the whole premise of Sword Art Online is that like they create this video game where you put on this headset and it like immobilizes your body in real life.
Yeah.
And so you go into this game that's like virtual reality and it's like you're actually like in the
Mhm.
game as your avatar. And the whole premise is that they get stuck in the game. And so for at least the original premise, it like spun off, but like in the original premise, they spent like 2 years in the game and someone had to beat the game.
Mhm.
And it started off very not family oriented because the main character is very like estranged from
Yeah.
his family. But over the course of the anime and everything that he goes through, you see him like kind of start to focus more on like, oh, like family is everything because like you could lose them at any
Yeah.
point. And then he gets back to reality and his family is like his entire world.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of anime either do something like that or they just kind of don't have a family focus at all.
Yeah.
So it's really, really cool to see how central the family is in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems to be a big thing too with just what's it called? Because this movie reminds you, not the end of the world aspect. You really, the family reminds you of Lulu Wang's The Farewell, my favorite movie of last year. It very centralized on family. Which in its you see it when the family loses the grandma. They really, what's it called? They feel it. They really feel it. Everybody's connected with each other. There's only one person who hasn't really been that involved with the family, but everybody is coming all their way from all different parts of the world. What's it called? All different parts of Japan to come and celebrate the 90th birthday for their grandmother, and they're there for the funeral as well. And it's just the importance of how like family is structured. Kenji doesn't understand that. That's why he really appreciates when they even bring him around and they even let him eat dinner with them. And it seems to be a very thing that makes him bond with the family, even though he's kind of there just to be a fake fiance. even though he didn't know that that's what he was there for. But it's there's the whole theme and the whole like the idea of family through this movie is just so present. From like the kids playing with each other because they're cousins or their brothers and sisters, to the uncles and aunts, talking with each other and having a good time, having a good like a drink, or the grandmother being the patriarchal, a figure in the household, being the one in the middle, at the table, and it's very 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 interesting imagery here that we see with the family. Yeah, yeah. Did that stuff kind of stick out to you?
What stuck out to me about the family is how realistic they were.
Yeah.
Because like for every like member in the family, I could kind of pinpoint like, oh, I have a member of my family that's just like that, you know, and that's kind of like really cool to see.
Yeah, I kept making fun of the guy with the was it the uncle, the sensei, the one with the generic dad look, the
my
wife
God.
beater, I mean the muscle shirt and the muscle shirt and the pants. Like
we all have a
jeans.
relative that dresses exactly like that.
Yeah, might have to be my dad. But yeah, dude, it's great. I was like, oh my God, you got the stereotypical. You got the kids who won't shut the hell up. You know, you've got the aunt there who needs to do everything for everything needs to be done for the family. Even when the world's ending, you're like, why would you think about that? Or the grandmother just died. Like, get to work on helping. On doing the funeral services.
Yeah. And then you have the one that just watches sports all the time.
Yeah, just like kind of just there at the TV, just watching things like oh, okay, yeah.
I'm just like,
world's about to end. My grandmother just died, but let me watch this game.
But like this game just went into like its 15th inning, so
yeah, that fucking game was taking so fucking long. That was really really awesome about the movie. I really like that part about it. I think that's the main thing that I think it's really really central in the movie. It's just the family, but also the whole, because everything's happening because we're all connected to the internet. It's because everything is dependent on the internet and everything is happening because of the internet. So when the hacking happens, it's like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah, like what do we do with this? Like our entire lives are on this thing.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's interesting because the grandmother's the one who pulls out the phone books and stuff, and they're like, "All right, cool, time to get everybody, make sure everybody's okay and stuff." Like, while everybody's like, how are we gonna do this if the internet's not working and stuff like that? It's interesting because this movie came out in 2009. Imagine this movie would have been made today. Because I feel like the internet in 2009 was very, very different from the internet now, because now we have Alexas. We have Alexas. We have Google
We have
Home.
Siri. We have Amazon.
Like, it was funny because it was interesting because of the whole GPS thing. Like, oh, the GPS is making me go over here. Like, you don't understand. Like, now GPS like it takes you literally there, and it's like, people don't even can't even read an atlas anymore. Like in 2009, there was people who were able to read an atlas. Yeah. But now nobody even. No. I'd be surprised if anybody even knows what an atlas is. That might be showing my age here. But yeah. It was really interesting. Like, the reason why the grandmother dies is because the monitor was on there. The monitor was through the internet, and because the internet went down, they didn't know that the grandmother was suffering a heart attack. Like, what could have been easily just having like a heart monitor that was connected to the wall, instead of having it be connected through the internet. It's crazy.
It's crazy how relevant that still is, because now Apple Watches and stuff can actually track all of that health stuff,
Yeah, how many times I gotta open my phone and it tells you walked like 5,000 steps a day or something like that.
Yeah, or I open my Fitbit and it tells me like my heart rate and how I slept and everything.
It's scary. It's scary.
It's scary to think that like that could actually happen.
Yeah, because the internet is even though we've had the internet for a while, it's a very new thing.
It's a very new concept.
The idea of a country having their nuclear bombs be traced to the internet. What if somebody is able to hack it and be able to do something like that?
That would be terrifying.
It's terrifying. Yeah. It makes you think about it also makes you think about the assholes who live on the internet. Like, who the hell needs all these accounts? Like, it was like 500 million something accounts. Like, that's
the thing. It wasn't a human running. What was it called? Love Machine.
Love Machine.
Okay, we need to go on a tangent about that. Real
Love
quick,
Machine,
because the villain's name is Love Machine.
Very ironic because he's doing something out of love.
Yeah.
He just wants to fucking end the world.
He's
I guess.
just like fucking shit up.
Yeah.
And his name is Love Machine.
Love Machine.
Like,
yeah.
And he's got a heart in the middle of his forehead. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
so
okay.
it's weird. Like, you just look at it and it's like it's crazy, because like what would happen to us if our Fitbits don't work anymore? If our if our Alexas don't work, if we don't have social media for a couple of days, like
If
you
our
know,
entire internet just goes
yeah,
haywire.
yeah, like information's on there. We have our school is done on there. Our schooling is done on there. Like what
Yeah.
happens to us? Like how are we able to like operate some of the stuff that we need? Because even like um things I don't know because I don't really know like emergency things, but like what's it called? What if hospitals were to be traced with the internet, right? And the only way you were
Yeah.
able to get to the hospital is by having to book a visit with the what's it called with the website. Like what would happen to a person if suddenly the internet is gone and they can't book a visit to the hospital because they don't have phone lines anymore or whatever, right? It really gets you thinking.
I mean, not just that, but in this movie, it's not just like the things that like we have on the internet. They have like their entire the entire world is on the internet. Like when the internet goes haywire, like the elderly's
Yeah.
what is it, life alert starts
Yeah.
acting up, and they start messing with the traffic lights and the emergency services and like
Yeah.
all of those things. And it's like crazy to think about how like now in 2020 we're not that far off from having all of that online.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if it's on some kind of online thing.
Yeah, like a cloud server or stuff like that,
Yeah.
because it's wild. It's like especially with the whole with the elderly people, like or like I keep saying sorry, what there we go again. Yeah, you think like what if like the life alert things this many times that it's crying wolf, right? What if the time it's actually happening they're like, oh no, it's a stupid thing, internet going off again, I'm not gonna go this time,
Well,
fuck
I
it.
mean, it's their job. They have to go anyway, but like
Yeah.
how like
But just imagine if there was that one person who was like on the clock and they're like, fuck it, this thing's been giving me a pain in the ass all week. It's probably just beeping because of a steward malfunction.
well, not
And
even that, but like what if someone's in actual trouble
Yeah,
and they can't get to them because of all the other ones going off that
Yeah.
don't mean shit?
exactly.
That's awful.
Which is awful. It just shows that like just there's kind of limitations to technology as we kind of advance and which advancement is really important thing. I think us as people we have to advance. We have to have like we can't stay in the same shit every single time. But there's kind of like those scary things that come with what's called technological advancements. And
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, it's really it's a really scary thing because it's like this isn't a thing that isn't far off.
Yeah, this isn't a thing that's not feasible. Like
Yeah.
it's something that could exist is the really
Yeah.
scary thing.
Yeah, it's what I like when I watch her. Like I constantly think about like, dude, possibility of a dude falling in love with a computer. Like it's possible. Like you have people who they've had like 3-4 years of relationship over Facebook and never met. Like
Yeah, never even heard the other person's voice.
like
I had
it's
I had a
possible.
friend like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he like had a whole relationship, a whole 4-year relationship with someone that he never heard her voice. He never met her in person.
yeah,
And we were like, dude, you're fucking stupid. Like,
yeah.
and he was like, oh no, it's fine. I talked to her friends. I know she doesn't cheat. And I'm like, first of all, if you have to talk to her friends to know that she doesn't cheat, that's a problem in itself.
Yeah. That also makes me wonder, like, is the person even real? Like,
Yeah, right? Because that could be anyone just like catfishing the hell out of you.
Yeah, and that shit happens. Like, people don't believe it. Like, people get catfish, man.
Oh yeah, that happens a lot.
Oh yeah. It's wild. Like like that stuff happens. Like there's people who like, no, I don't want a video message. Like our relationship is strictly on messages, and that's it. Like there's no what's it called, phone calls. There's no video messages. I'm not going to visit you. Like it's wild. It's something that the world. It's like you said. It's feasible. It's possible.
It's feasible. It's possible. It has happened. So it's like, I don't know. It's just crazy to think about.
Mm-hmm. This was my introduction to Hosoda's filmography. I know you've watched The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. I've never seen that one. This was part of my 75 films from Asia challenge, so I'm glad that you chose this one because I got to knock two birds with one stone here. Um, I am very interested in his animation style. It's really like very modern. It's not the Ghibli style. It also isn't, the Shinkai style. It's very modern, very not rough. Uh, it's very beautiful looking,
It
but
is.
it's beautiful looking in like the simple way where you're just seeing a regular ass drawing that somebody made. It's not incredibly abstract like Shinkai's work, but it's also not very nostalgic like Miyazaki's work. If you catch my drift.
Yeah, it's like it's visually like it's stunning because of
Mhm.
how like bright it is,
Yeah.
but the artwork itself is very simple.
Yeah. Which I still need to watch Mirai because it's it's this big one that he got nominated for. So I don't know when I'll get to that, but I'll get to it eventually. Yeah, and I really like the characterization is nothing really different than most animes, which is interesting, but he really approaches the way that he sets up these characters interesting. Like you know, I thought throughout the whole thing, this thing is actually gonna fucking fall, and it pretty much did. But you're like, this shit's about to kill everybody here. Like for a sec, because even with movies like Miyazaki's movies, there's some moments when you can feel like, oh yeah, things are gonna get resolved for
Yeah.
sure. Or like with Shinkai, like yeah, what's it called? They're gonna fall in love and they're gonna stay together. Of course, it's gonna happen. But with this one, I didn't know. At one point I was
Yeah.
like, I think for sure she, this thing's gonna kill him.
Yeah, because they get down to like the wire,
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, these
yeah,
bitches are gonna die.
yeah. Which I think it's Hosada kind of saying that in life, it's not that cookie cut. It's not that cut. It's not that well cut. Like
Hmm.
shit doesn't always just go according to plan. Sometimes the plan gets messed up. Sometimes somebody takes ice out of your supercomputer room and moves it to the grandma's room where the body's still there.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, sometimes life messes up, and sometimes you have to find another way. You might have to call that uncle that nobody talks to because he's been out of the house for 10 years, and it's really really interesting what those little parts that he brings into the film, Osada.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I've got more stuff here. I wanted to talk about the masculinity too, because but the masculinity, but also the role of the woman in the film, especially the mothers cooking and cleaning. The one that gets to watch the game is interesting because it's like, wow, the only one who's not being told to come back into the kitchen. You also have the pressure on the on Natsuki to marry and to find a what's called a partner to have children with, and also the pressure on what's it called on 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 Kenchi to supposed to
Yeah.
be this very man up, like he's supposed to be like this very masculine, tough dude
Yeah, they
who can
expect him to.
who can protect her, and
Yeah.
it's like like she can fucking protect
Yeah,
herself.
she doesn't need protecting.
Yeah, like damn girl, you're just a fucking grown ass girl, dude. She can protect
Yeah.
herself. It's really interesting. What did you think about that in the movie?
I think it's really interesting how they. Okay, so there's a few things that I'd like to say about this particular thing. But like I thought it was really interesting how the men all kind of like preached masculinity, but they didn't actually do much until like the very end. And then you see them like kind of start to come together and be like one of them
Yeah,
actually even says like the men in this family have gotten complacent,
yeah,
and then they like rise to the challenge. And it's really interesting how they preach all of this like masculinity and like, oh, she needs to get married and have kids, but then
yeah.
the grandma is like the single most badass
Yeah,
female.
pretty much. Pretty
Like,
much. It's like you got a whole family of men who are basically just letting their wives do all the work.
yeah.
And they're supposed to be like, "Oh, dude, you got to be tough. You got to protect your girl." Like what the hell are you guys talking about then? Like basically you guys are just like sitting back relaxing while your wife does everything for you.
Yeah,
Like,
but then like also like sorry,
nah, nah, go ahead.
but contradicting that a little bit too cuz they so okay, how do I put this?
Speak your truth. Speak your truth.
But they did all that, but at the same time these men are like the stereotype dad character
Yeah.
like knows karate or kung fu or whatever that is. And then like the other men, there's like 3 firefighters in the family.
Yeah.
And one of them like works for some government agency doing some undisclosed job.
Yeah.
And
The what's it called, the what's it called, the self-defense
Yeah.
self-defense thing. Yeah.
yeah, self-defense something or other. And when they ask him what he does, he's like, that's classified. And I'm like, I've heard that before.
Oh,
We had a
of
family
course.
friend in the Marines, and
Yeah.
he was a translator. And my brother used to pester him every time he came in on leave and be like, "What do you do? What did you do?" Like,
It's
and
classified.
he's like, "I can't tell you."
It's
He
classified.
was like, "I literally can't tell you anything."
That's interesting. Yeah, but it's really surprising when you bring up, like, yeah, like, these, and especially what's it called, Kazama's King Kazama's his dad. It's not even not there the whole movie, and like, but there's also that
Yeah.
pressure on these kids growing up, because you see when he fails, when he gets his account taken, he says, I failed you, grandma. I couldn't protect mom. I couldn't protect my sisters. It's kind of setting this idea to boys, like, you're supposed to be this very tough, very macho. You're supposed to very much protect your family, protect the women in your family, and be like there to make sure that they have the right life they need to have. And it's really interesting. You see the pressure that it brings to these little boys in the family.
Yeah, it's interesting that they do that too, because like none of those women need protecting.
Pretty much.
Like these are
yeah.
all like all the women in this movie, except for like a few scenes with Natsuki. They're very like strong, independent women.
Yeah.
And that's actually like going off on a slight tangent again.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. It all relates to the movie either way.
Yeah, but like the baseball girl, I don't know what her name is, but I'm just gonna call her Red Sox girl because she's wearing a Red Sox jersey like a heathen the whole movie.
Yeah.
But she's she's a really interesting character by herself, because they paint her as this very non-feminine kind of woman who's like, she's watching a baseball game this whole time. I think it's her son that's playing in the game, because it's like a high school televised baseball game.
Mm-hmm.
And she's watching this the whole time, but then you have this one scene where she's like, after the grandma dies, when they're all like chilling in their like somber silence, and they zoom in on her breastfeeding her baby. And I thought that was really interesting, and not just because like personally I've never seen like breastfeeding shown on screen in an anime
never
movie.
Seen it before either.
Never seen it before. So that's
Yeah.
interesting in and of itself, but it's just like, it's interesting how they contradicted this like very non-feminine character with this very feminine task of like, oh, she's breastfeeding her child,
Yeah, it's really interesting what you bring up, because I can't remember the last time I've seen that in an anime film, or even anime in general.
or in any
Like,
film. Like,
Yeah, but it's true, because like somebody could say like, well, I'm pretty sure it's happened in the film before. We just
I
haven't
mean, I'm
watched
sure it has.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's happened in
Yeah.
anime too.
yeah.
But like,
We just haven't watched it yet.
yeah.
But it's interesting because she is a very tomboyish character. She's kind of
Mhm.
like if you just watching sports all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She's not really doing the cooking and cleaning. She's not really even hanging out much of the time with the women in the family. She's kind of really just drinking beer, with the guys, and she's also watching sports. But then you have her doing like the most
like the peak
the most
of feminine
natural,
things.
the most natural thing that could come to a woman. It's like
Mhm.
breastfeeding, and it's oddly beautiful in a way,
It is.
because it's kind of Hosada showing like everybody in the family is different, but like at the end of the day we're still who we are. We're still we're still mothers, we're still fathers, we're still
There's still
what's called
more to us
sons.
than what's on the surface.
Yeah, we're still sons, we're still daughters, and I guess it's just him reminding like this is still a family, even though there's a what's it called, the cousin ruins everything basically.
Yeah, and the world is ending and a nuke's about to land on your house.
Yeah.
But like,
They're all against Natsuki, bringing some fake boyfriend, but still at the end of it all comes from a place of wanting to make sure that everything works out for the family, and that they all what's it called, they all make sure that it's that it's all approved by the grandmother, which is really interesting, because I put down a quote here that they say that I really wanted to bring up. What's it called, mother's permission is all the approval she will need. It's like, because I don't know how it works with you, my family, it's like always, there was mom, but there was grandma. grandma was higher than everybody. Like if grandma didn't like something, it gets changed in an instant. Forget it. Mom doesn't like it. But if grandma doesn't like how it is, there's like it's just how we view the elderly, but also how we view the main figure in the family, which is always what's it called, the grandparents. And in this case, she's also the great grandparents to some of them. But it was really interesting what they say like that. It doesn't matter if Natsuki's mom doesn't approve of what she did, of the guy she brings. If Natsuki's grandmother approves of the man she brings, fuck what the mom said. What did you think about that?
I think, well, I didn't really think much about that, to be honest, until you said all that just now.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking that that's a really interesting cultural difference.
Yeah.
Because I've noticed in movies like Coco and like movies about like the Mexican culture and movies about like Japanese culture and like basically any culture that's not American. The grandmother or the grandfather is kind of the central figure of the family. But for me, like growing up in Texas with like our little like Cajun family, it's never been like the grandparents as the central figure. It's always been like, oh no, mom's the central figure. Like she's the final authority. Yeah. Like dad's there and his approval matters, but like mom's like God,
Yeah. Which is crazy because in my defense over here, my grandma's the big authority. Like, what's it called? It's crazy. It's what's it called? Grandma could not like how a certain thing looks. If she doesn't like that they're doing Christmas at a certain house, well shit. Looks like we're gonna have to move things over. We're gonna have to go to a different place for Christmas or something like that. It's really interesting, and I think that's just how it is, especially in the East, the Eastern world. And it's really interesting when you get to these movies. By the way, we watched it in the dubbing. I really wish we could have watched it in the sub because I really wanted to hear those original voice actors. But
there were some really good voice actors in this one, though.
Yeah, for sure. It's just interesting the way that they kind of show the East in this film. Very industrialized, very technological, but also very family oriented. And it's not the first time you see movies like this. You see them all the time with Miyazaki. You see them all the time with Shinkai. Really, the aspect of how tight knit family is. And I gotta say that it was really, really, really interesting how the family is affected when the grandmother dies.
Yeah, because they kind of lose that central authority.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I know I've seen this movie before, but like I told Raul when we were watching it, I didn't actually remember anything about it because I watched it like years ago. And when the grandma died, I was kind of like, well, shit, like who's gonna take over now? Because like she was like the big decision maker. Yeah. She was, the big kahuna. And it was kind of like, well, what are they going to do now? Like, are they going to split apart because their central figure is gone? Or are they going to come together around the loss? Yeah. And they kind of did both a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's it called? Uncle Wabisuke, the outcast of the family, the one who's been shunned and everything. But even then, in that letter from the grandmother, he's like, I set them back,
Yeah, she's like, just forgive and forget.
Yeah, just feed them, let them come, just set them back. And it's interesting because it reminds me of like, in family there can be so many grudges. There can be grudges, but like as long as if you just have a conversation, you talk about it, usually things can get solved in that day when you have that conversation. So it was interesting when you read the letter from the grandma and basically they're like, yeah, you know what? It's time to call Wabisuke and bring him back and help us out because we really do need his help. And even though we do feel a certain way about him, he has the right to come and pay his respects to his grandmother.
But they don't even make that decision. It's just Natsuki who like calls him.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, man. And then he's like, he goes off on his tangent. And she's like, would you shut the fuck up?
Yeah. By the way, Claire had her wonderful, wonderful first time seeing me cry during the movie. I promise it's not the last time you're gonna see it. So it was this movie really struck me. Like I lost my grandmother last year. She was the woman who raised me. She was the one who raised me and my brothers, and she of course she was the patriarchal figure of our family. It's really tough. So when you see Natsuki really shocked at first.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't know what to make of it. And then
Yeah.
that one part where all the family is kind of mourning, the mother's breastfeeding. We go to Natsuki where she's crying, but she finally has a chance to let it all out.
Yeah,
Uh,
and she like lets Kenji in at
yeah,
the same time.
yeah,
And that's a really interesting scene by itself.
yeah, which is what reminds me of, when I was at the hospital with my grandmother and uh, where I had that moment where I had to let it all out.
Mm.
Fuck, I was still crying when I came back to my room. When I was living at the lofts at the time, I just got to my room. I just fucking closed the door. I came back after coming back from fucking San Antonio, and I just fucking let it all out and let it all out. Fucking crying in my room, and
Mm.
it's really interesting scene because she's being so vulnerable, but at the same time she's letting
Mm.
this guy in, and he's kind of like, I brought you here
Yeah.
because of just trying to make my family accept you, and now I'm basically making you part of my family now because you're
Yeah.
here during like one of the toughest time of my family.
During the toughest
Yeah,
time,
yeah,
probably.
probably the toughest time that our family's gonna go through. So I thought that was really interesting and really beautiful that Hosada includes that in this movie.
Yeah, that was really, really cool.
Yeah, sucks you had to see me cry, but oh well, it's gonna happen another time. I'm pretty sure
We're all human. It
it
happens.
happens. My friends, what's it called? Men cry. All right, my fellow men who are listening to this, you gotta cry, guys. We gotta let it out. There's nothing wrong with crying. Absolutely nothing. I cry more times than I need to, but yeah. Uh, but yeah, dude, it's this movie handles that so well, and I can't believe that that I've been sleeping on Hosada for a while.
Mm.
I've only seen movies from Shinkai and Miyazaki. We did the Garden of Words on this podcast with Michelle. I saw Weathering with You, and of course I've seen a shit ton of Miyazaki, more than I need to.
Of course, haven't we all?
Yeah, I mean that's Grumpy Grandpa. That's the guy who really has made anime films big as they are.
Oh, absolutely. He's part of the reason that anime itself is as big
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah, it's the reason this guy even makes these movies because he was inspired
Yeah.
by Miyazaki's first film.
By the Castle of Cagliostro.
Yeah,
That's a wild movie. That's a trip of a movie.
yeah, it really is. The Casa Cagliostro is crazy, but you really think about just the way that the movies are the what's it called the subject matter is presented, and I think that Hosada is very strong in that sense. It's a first outing from him that I've seen that was really really strong, and I wanted to see more of his movies because I mean there's no way that Mirai was nominated just because it's Mirai. Like there's got to be more to it. Like there's probably more in that movie that I need to watch. Yeah.
Yes.
I got a couple of stuff here that I gotta bring up too. It's really interesting how, the city, where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
It's all kind of like disorganized. The room that they're what's it called? The room that they're working in, and then you come to the room where Kazama has his computer, and it's all very knit and organized and everything. And it's kind of showing you the difference between the city life and also the rural life, the fucking country.
Mm.
And it's also beautiful the way that they animate that place. It looks like a huge like house.
It
And
probably is.
yeah, and it brings a boat. I thought that was hilarious. I'm like, why you never
Brings a
getting a
boat.
boat?
Why they never use the boat? Why is the boat there?
The boat was really housing the ice, but other than that, really, what the fuck are you using the boat for?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Also, I guess this will be the last thing we kind of talk about, and I think that a big thing this movie was talking about as well was cyber bullies. People who live on the internet just to be fucking assholes. It's like what happens to technology when it gets into the wrong hands.
Yeah, that's a scary thought. I think okay, so on that note, I think it's really interesting how it's a Japanese movie, but the like main antagonist actually ends up being the United States military because they like bought Love Machine
Love Machine.
from the cousin who made Love Machine. And then they like released it on Oz thinking that it would be, I don't know, some kind of security measure or something. And
Yeah.
it got way out of hand. and then they ended up like hurting a bunch of people. And if that isn't United States history in a nutshell, I
was
don't know
gonna
what
ask
is.
you, do you think that's Hosoda kind of saying like
That
you
America
know,
needs to fuck off?
yeah, that basically the United States needs to start getting involved in things they don't need to do because they make things they make things worse than they are. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I can sit here and tell you the whole fucking region of Latin America could tell you about how that worked out.
Oh yeah, the whole world can.
Yeah.
Japan can.
Yeah, Japan. One exactly. Japan. You know,
Japan can tell better than anyone.
Yeah, I mean, what's it called? Look at all the birth defects that came after we dropped a fucking bomb there. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, even though you're trying to help and you think it's gonna work,
You're messing
there's-
with things
there's
that you
still-
don't fully understand
exactly.
and releasing them on the world.
Yeah. So you know, it's like, it's you know, kind of like a metaphor of imperialism, but at the same time, it's like, you know, what are you doing when you get hands on things you don't understand? You're gonna get them into the wrong. Like you buy something, you buy this love machine, gets into the hands of somebody who can really cause damage. Then you have something like a cyber terrorist attack that almost destroys a whole family and kills them off. Like that's it's crazy. It shows like the limitations of technology, but also what happens when you get them into the wrong hands. Because there's people who abuse of the internet. You know,
Yeah.
like they act like assholes. I mean, how many times have we read articles about a person? I can't remember who this was, but what's it called? Somebody, there was a boyfriend who was texting a girlfriend saying that, you know, he wanted to kill himself and everything like that, right? And the girlfriend texts back, "You should do it. What's stopping you?" And there's people like that in this world who abuse the internet and do things like that. You know, what happens if things like what if somebody like that who's like a complete sociopath were to get their hands on something that could control a nuke falling on a fucking family? Do you remember that case? I can't remember who it was, but yeah, the girl got life, like fucking, because there was the whole.
I remember that.
There was the whole debate going if that is manslaughter, which it fucking is
I
manslaughter.
remember that.
It's assisted suicide in a sense.
It's not. I mean, it's suicide baiting.
Yeah, basically.
But that's kind of all it is, because he still had the option of whether to do it or not.
Yeah, it's a really tough thing where we get into like the whole ethics of it, and also really how to really categorize it, because you know, the guy was crying for help.
Yeah. And she should have directed him towards some kind of help. Because I mean, it's not like, okay, if I were in that situation, like I would kind of be like I'm sorry that you're going through this, like please get professional help.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Even as your partner, you don't have the answer to everything.
No, and there's things like that where you don't really want to have the answer.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to tell someone, oh, well, you can live to fight another day, when you don't know, like you haven't been inside their head.
Yeah.
You know?
But to say something like, you should do it, what's stopping you? That's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you know, it's crazy. That's what I'm telling you about, like, this whole fucking internet thing that we have. It allows people to, how many fucking times have I seen on Twitter people telling like, oh, you're fucking stupid for liking this, or you're fucking stupid like that. You know, you don't know how that fucking, you know, how that affects somebody throughout their day. Like, of course, it's some random stranger telling you, but you know, some people are having a certain day and they're having a bad day, and getting told on the internet, oh, fucking kill yourself because you like this, or fucking kill yourself because you like that. You know, it's kind of like, what the fuck, man?
I think the whole internet culture of like, oh, well, you don't like this and that makes your opinion invalid is like really stupid in and of itself.
Yeah.
But like, that's always going to be there, you know?
Yeah, sadly.
And like, I mean, I know all of us kind of just like grew up with it. So it's kind of just this thought of like, oh, well, there's strangers on the internet, so just like toughen the fuck up.
Yeah.
But like I've noticed in the past few years especially, there's been that whole rise in the meme of like that dude holding his hand up in the suit and he's like, go kill yourself. And I'm just like not okay with that on so many levels.
Yeah.
Because like, I don't know, like I've had a lot of like personal experience with suicide, and like,
you know, my personal experiences with it too. You know, it's something that's happened before, but I gotta say, you know, it's like, where are we going when we get our hands with this technology? And like, can we use it for good? But there's also that part in the film where it's used for good because you see everybody.
Yeah,
go
everybody
toge-
bands together.
Everybody bands together, and there is those beautiful things about internet
There
culture.
are. Everything is a balance.
The guy I what's it called? I co-host the show with the main show on through Twitter. You know, there is the beautiful thing about the internet.
There are amazing things on the internet if
Yeah.
you find them and look for them. Like
Yeah.
if you look for darkness, that's all you're gonna see.
Yeah, which is possibly what the hacker was looking for. He just wanted. He said it. He did it. He's not doing this from a place of like, wanting to what's it called, make people fear. Like he's doing it because he wants to. Because
Well, yeah. I mean, it's an AI.
yeah, it's
He doesn't. It's not doing anything to feel anything. It's just doing
Yeah.
things because it can.
yeah, which is really interesting when you get down to it, like at the nitty gritty. It's like when are we gonna get to that point? Because we're already desensitized to so many things. Like how many fucking videos do we see of people getting shot on the internet? Like or people fighting. Like like the fucking corner store. Somebody's fighting in the corner store, and we're like, dude, that's funny. It's just like people wilding out, right?
Yeah.
But deep down, you're like, what the fuck, man? Why are you getting to the point where you have to hit somebody? It's like we're kind of getting desensitized to certain things.
Oh, we've gotten desensitized to a lot.
Yeah, or our first reaction to like I bring up the World War III thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was our first reaction to that? We make memes out of it.
Yeah, but to be fair,
when we don't think about, if it's a real thing, I have family who could have gotten drafted, who could have been told to go. Got people in the military who were told to go fight a war.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, the people making the memes were the people at risk of getting drafted, and they knew that.
Yeah.
Like comedy like that for our generation.
Yeah.
Isn't made out of malice. It's like just dealing with a bad situation through comedy, because that's kind of just the best way to deal with things like that.
But it's also at the same time, I kind of pose a question like, when are we going to actually take something seriously? When are we not going to make everything a joke and try to actually like talk about certain things, Because there'll be like things like, I'm trying to remember certain examples, but what's it called? During that things, like I would see people who were like, please don't joke about this. Like I have my husband's in the military or my wife's in the military, and they could die any second because they're out there, and they'd be like, oh, lighten up. Like, why should we have to dictate the way other people like they kind of approach the way they're handling their own how can I say it? Like they're handling the news and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we can't.
But I can also
really
see how that. Yeah, I know. I could also see how that kind of being used for like, people like use memes and stuff like to cope. But I don't know. To me, it's like I think. Oh, and you say you agree with me. Like I think we are getting desensitized to certain things.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We as a culture are desensitized to so fucking much.
Yeah.
Like if someone came over from a culture that's never experienced anything that goes on in America, and they came here and saw all the things that we joke about, they would probably be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? This is a society full of sociopaths.
Yeah, basically. Whereas in the film, and they're like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like they're not like, yeah, it's just another guy acting weird on Oz. No, it's like, what the hell is wrong with y'all? Like, you're about to kill the whole world. And of course you have the people who don't, like the parents and the family who like, oh, I don't really know what this is. It's just a game, right? Like, no, you dumbass. Like, it's more than that. So it's really interesting. It's really interesting the way he compares the Eastern world and the Western world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that we're probably at the end of this. I want to say that we're at.
Well, there's one last thing.
Yeah, go ahead and bring it up.
Okay, so the whole movie, there's a baseball game going on in the background.
Yeah.
And everything that goes on in the baseball game correlates to the action in the movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting. Because, like, even when the baseball game, at the end, they talk about going into extra innings.
Yeah.
And, like, that's kind of what's going on in the movie, too. Because they thought everything had worked out.
Yeah. But they gave that one shot. One more shot.
Yeah. And then it just keeps going on and on and on.
Yeah.
And before you know it, they went from, like, 9 innings to, like, 16 innings.
Yeah. Also, Hosoda does a lot of homages here. He does an homage to Miyazaki in the train.
Mm-hmm.
He does the shot from Spirited Away. He
Yeah.
also does a nice little what's it called homage to Akira Kurosawa, to the Grand Master of Japanese cinema himself, when he says that when the guy was like, "Oh yeah, where'd you find that? Did you make that up?" He's like, "Oh no, I got it from Seven Samurai." It's an
Oh
homage.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
an homage to the movie made by Kurosawa-san. You know, the Grand Master of Japanese cinema. I thought that was really nice of him to put that in there. Like, hey, you got to pay homage to the greats.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. But yeah, we are here, and you've just gotten through your first movie, first episode of the Cinema Condition. Claire,
Yeah.
do you have a movie in mind that you would like to recommend to the people?
that I'd like to recommend to the people?
Yeah, what's
Oh,
a movie you gotta
gosh.
tell them that you gotta watch this? Like, it's a really good movie.
Ooh. Oh, that's a hard one. There's so many good movies.
Just think about one, because I'm pretty sure you'll have more to recommend when you come back.
Oh, probably, definitely. Kiki's Delivery Service. I think everyone should watch Kiki's Delivery
Okay.
Service.
All right, awesome. So you recommend Kiki's Delivery Service. Now, which is the film that you want to call dibs on for season 2, Claire? This will be the first movie you come back for season 2.
Oh, Okay. At the risk of what you're gonna say about this movie, because I know you don't like this series, but I love it. It's my religion, so I'm gonna say Iron Man.
Oh, I don't mind talking about Iron Man. Yeah, Iron
Really?
Man's. Yeah, I thought you were gonna choose Avengers Endgame.
No.
I was like, no, fuck Iron Man. Oh, there's a lot
I
of
mean,
conversations to have with Iron Man.
There's even longer conversations about Endgame. We could probably talk about Endgame for 10 hours straight.
Nah, I'm good. We can do Iron Man. Cool. She chose Iron Man. I thought you were gonna bring up that one. I was like, no, I'm not doing Endgame. I'm sorry. But no, with Iron Man, there's a lot of conversation to be had there, especially about what's called the military industrial complex.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is the Yas from Claire.
Yes.
The queen of Yas. Thank you so much for sticking here,
Of
coming with us.
course.
I love this show. It's really more of a deep understanding of the movie and what really makes the movie the movie. So I'm glad I brought you here. There's still more chances for you to come back. There's if there's another one you want to do, we have 5 open slots in season 1. Because there's 30 episodes and we have 25 already booked with guests. But yeah, you just gotta let me know which is the next one you want to do, and we'll have you come on through to season 1.
Yeah.
So just call one of those slots before somebody else does. But yeah, I'm glad you guys have enjoyed the first 5 episodes of the Cinema Condition. We've had the wonderful Alejandra Almeida in the first one, where we talked about Gaspar Noé's Climax, and then the second one was with Miss Amazing Michelle Ochoa, where we talk about the Garden of Words from Makoto Shinkai. And the third, of course, was our most abstract episode where we talked about Takashi Miike's audition with Leah Burns. And then, of course, our 4th episode was the incredible Jabril Newton, co-host of the greatest wrestling podcast on earth, High Flyer Radio, where we talked about Blind Spotting from Carlos Lopez Estrada. I want to thank my first 5 guests so much. Like, you guys have made this a really, really fun part of the show. Things are going to get a little bit different when we move on to the next couple of episodes, but it's still going to be the same thing. We're going to be here to talk about a movie, and we're here to analyze the movie and talk about what the movie was about and what made the movie. So, as always, you can go to thenerdcore.com. You check out all the reviews I write on there. I just put a new one for Weathering With You. I reviewed that movie. Spoiler alert, didn't think it was that great. But you guys go read my thoughts on that movie, because we need you to go read the reviews. That's why they're up. You can also check out the other shows on the feed. The other shows on the network at anchor.fm/thenerdcore. Of course, you can find this at anchor.fm/the cinema condition. We're on our own feed. We've got our own playground. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you leave a rate or what's called a like on the like button, and you subscribe to the YouTube channel. But if you're listening to this on podcast services, especially Apple Podcasts, please go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the feed, and leave a 5-star review so you can help us get this show available to everybody. It helps people find the show easier, and it just makes me feel good when you guys leave reviews for the show and you tell me what I'm doing right here. As always, the Nerdcore is found on Instagram and Twitter. The Nerdcore and the Nerdcore _ on Twitter. So go and check that out. And you can follow me Instagram and Twitter at the Nerdy Chicano. And Claire, where can they find you?
You can find me across any social media by @lipstickfedora.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Claire, I wish Claire did more than just, tweet stuff on the internet. I wish she had her own like YouTube live stream where she talked about anime and stuff because she's really knowledgeable. It's just that she doesn't like the camera in front of her. Which is why I think you love this whole podcast thing because there's nothing like, having to have the camera in front of you.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you so much for joining me. I do know what our next episode is. Our next episode is either interview with a vampire with Miss Rachel Sweetland, or my friend Alejandra Escutia Angulo is going to come on to talk about Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, those are two really good movies.
So sit tight, my friends. Watch your movie, cinephiles. And as always, stay safe out there. It's been the Cinema Condition, and I'll see you guys next episode.